Let's ride.
Time for the words that are recited before each and every game here at Dodger Stadium. Take it away, Finn.
It's time for Dodger baseball.
What's going on, Dodgers fans? Thank you for listening to another episode of the Incline Dodgers podcast presented by the Fansided Podcast Network. Kevin Klein here to cover a number of things with my co-host that I'll introduce, of course, in a second. Chris Camello joining us as a guest, so we're excited to have him back on. Dodgers, when we thought they were done making moves this offseason, some people might have thought this was the roster going in. It's not done yet. The Dodgers made another additional move. They've agreed to a one-year, $6.5 million deal with the 35-year-old outfielder, 9-year vet, David Peralta, a very familiar name. If you followed the Arizona Diamondbacks or the NL West in general, you would have seen him face the Dodgers quite a lot during his career. 281 career, or sorry, a 281 career hitter over his lifetime. A pretty respectable OPS as well. Kind of struggled last season, spent time between the D-backs and the Tampa Bay Rays, finished with a 251 batting average in 2022 with a 731 OPS, just 12 home runs, 0 home runs with Tampa Bay. But for the most part, this has been a general respectable hitter, a true veteran. And this is going to be an interesting situation because the Dodgers, in my opinion, needed some help in the center field department, but now they added a corner outfielder. So you'll be looking at Peralta to probably be starting a majority of at-bats against right-handed pitching. He'll start in left field. Chris Taylor, you would imagine, would start against mostly left-handed pitching. He'll start in left and center field. And before I pass it off, I just wanted to point out an interesting observation. So last season, the Dodgers had Joey Gallo and Hanser Alberto, and I feel like they've directly replaced them now with David Peralta and Miguel Rojas. And so we kind of thought this was going to be the youth movement, but I mean, Peralta, I mentioned he's 35 and he's a pretty respectable veteran at this point. So I think he's going to get a bulk share of the at-bats. So Jake Reiner, let me get you in here. What are your thoughts on this move?
Yeah, Peralta and Rojas, arguably a huge upgrade over what Gallo and Alberto were able to provide last season. So this is a great move. And you look at his stats. I mean, look, Kevin just mentioned 251 average, 731 OPS, 12 homers, 59 RBIs. I'll take that again. Like, give that to me again, because this is not going to be a guy you're going to rely on heavily in the middle of your order. This is a complimentary bat that can give you some pop. He's left-handed, which is great because now Dave Roberts can really go right, left if he wants to. I know that they were trying to add that lefty, and they did. And I'm glad that he's coming back to the NL West because, like Kevin mentioned, as soon as he went to Tampa Bay, the rest of the season kind of dipped, and he didn't really produce much at all. But as an Arizona Diamondback, I mean, you look at his numbers, and he had a 30 home run season in 2018. Granted, that's a little bit of a long ways away, but still, it kind of reminds me of when the Dodgers picked up Jake Lamb in a way, and he kind of has a similar career where Jake Lamb had a few seasons where he hit 30 home runs and had the potential, but then, kind of didn't really produce as much. I think Peralta's better than Jake Lamb. And if he's able to provide 12 home runs, 60 to 70 RBIs, you'll take that.
Chris Camello, glad to have you back on the show. One thing I wanted to add to this, a lot of success against the NL West. In his career against the Padres, he's a 305 lifetime hitter. Against the Colorado Rockies, a 340 lifetime hitter. Against the Dodgers, 251 career hitter. I mean, that's to be expected because the Dodgers typically have elite pitching on their roster. But what are your thoughts on this Peralta addition?
I'm happy in the sense that the Dodgers don't have to face him this season. So that's cool. I mean, this is a guy who's consistently lit up the Dodgers. It kind of just feels like no matter how good Arizona was playing, you could always rely on this guy to have a solid, in a 3-game series, probably go, it felt like 8 of 14 with a couple of home runs and 4 or 5, 6 RBIs and everything like that. So yeah, he's obviously declined a little bit since that 2018 season that Jake was talking about, but I see this in a couple of different ways. One, the Dodgers were looking for another outfielder. It could have been in center. It could have been in the corner. Remember, they were looking at AJ Pollock and a potential reunion there before AJ decided to go to Seattle. And I think he fills another void, not just providing some outfield depth, but another left-handed hitter off the bench. And that was something I was a little concerned with, especially in the outfield, assuming Chris Taylor is going to get the bulk of the starts out there, along with Trace Thompson and Mookie Betts. You didn't really have a lot of flexibility there as far as in the lineup, as far as the lineup was concerned. So I like the fact that he's a left-handed bat. You could bring him up off the bench. He could DH. He could play left field. And he's got experience, even though he's never played with the Dodgers. He's got experience playing at Dodger Stadium because he was in Arizona for all those years. So he understands the lay of the land at the Ravine. $6.5 million for 1 year. It's a solid move. It's a solid pickup with incentives. He could get up to $8 million. I just think at this point, good, hardworking player, got some pop in that bat. It has good at bats. He's a guy that can crush mistakes and drive in some runs. And also, too, this is an insurance policy, in my opinion, in case Trace Thompson kind of continues to dwindle off the way he did late last season. This is a guy where it's like you kind of hold Trace accountable for.
And also Chris Taylor.
And Chris Taylor as well. But, I mean, Taylor's going to find a way to be in the lineup because of his ability to play the infield, Jake. So as far as the outfield is concerned, I think Peralta really has that in case Outman gets called up and he struggles or whatnot. This is a nice stabilizing presence, similar to what Rojas is going to be to Lux and Vargas. I think Peralta can be for this Dodger outfield. I like the signing.
Kind of a weird comparison that I might be reaching here, but he kind of reminds me of late career Andre Ethier at this point, where you got a solid proven veteran, late mid-30s now. Ethier kind of from 2014 to 2017, injuries kind of riddled him, but there were times in the playoffs where someone like Puig was struggling and Don Mattingly would insert Ethier into the starting lineup to shake things up. And I think also if Peralta's not starting, he might be a late game substitution or just come into a pinch hit role, and he might get you instant offense in this role. So we talked about the money already. $6.5 million to me, that's just low risk, and there's a lot of high reward opportunities here. So this was a fan favorite in Arizona. Like D-backs fans really spoke highly of him. Big energy guy, hard worker, as Chris said. So I like the move. I think this just pays dividends. And I mean, we're looking at a pretty full roster now in terms of the bats. I think the pitching is also pretty much full too. So I mean, the biggest question here is, does Jason Hayward even have a spot to make the opening day lineup? Michael Busch, where does he fit into this equation? Because he was already kind of squeezed out. Now it's looking very unlikely he can make it to opening day. And then finally, there's a lot of pressure on James Outman. The outfield was already a little bit tight because of Trace Thompson and then Jason Hayward fighting for a spot. Now you add in David Peralta, who can't really play center, but you got Chris Taylor who can play center. So that last spot, I think, is going to really come down to James Outman and Jason Hayward, I guess.
I think it's a really good problem to have. It looks like the Dodgers have done a nice job of compiling depth, and not just bodies, but like actual guys that can contribute and have had proven track records of success. So it's going to, like I've said on the last episode, this is going to be one of the most hotly contested spring trainings we've seen in a while because of all the openings and because of all the guys that left this offseason. So I think that this is going to, I hope, elevate James Outman. You know, he'll sink or swim, right? And I think that he's going to have to earn it, just like Jason Hayward's going to have to earn it. David Peralta is probably going to make this roster, given the major league commitment they just offered him.
I think he has to.
He has to. Whereas Jason Hayward signed a minor league deal, invite to camp. James Outman has options. So those guys really do have to fight to make the roster, and then also fight for playing time.
And don't forget Steven Duggar, too. I really was intrigued by that because it didn't seem like that long ago that there were the Steve Finley comparisons to Steven Duggar. And that might get a few eye rolls from Jake and Kevin here. But I'm just saying, it didn't feel like that long ago where this guy was coming up and turning heads with the San Francisco Giants. He's bounced around to Texas, to the Angels. I'm intrigued by that signing as well. So spring training is really going to be intriguing. I think being humbled in the playoffs last year, combined with the fact that guys are trying to have bounce back seasons like Muncy, like Chris Taylor, and then you have a batch of guys who are trying to A, prove that they can still play, or B, prove that we are here. And forget about Trey Turner, forget about Justin Turner. Miguel Vargas is here. James Outman is here. A lot of these, Gavin Lux is here. So I think you have a few different incentives to go out and take these spring training games. Well, most of them take them seriously this season.
Yeah. I didn't hear Dave Roberts personally name drop Steven Duggar, although I feel like he's the more talented player. But another guy he did name drop was Bradley Zimmer, who defensively we know is a gem. Bat questionable, but they're going to give him some. They're going to give him some at bats as well. I think this is a guy they would like to potentially have as a fallback plan if all else fails in center field. With the World Baseball Classic just a few weeks away, we finally got the official rosters announced. So we're going to focus on Team USA and then cover some Dodgers that are also participating. So your 2023 USA roster in the World Baseball Classic is composed of the following position players: Pete Alonso, Tim Anderson, Nolan Arenado, Mookie Betts, Paul Goldschmidt, Kyle Higashioka. I can't say his.
Higashioka.
Yes, Kyle Higashioka, Jeff McNeil, Cedric Mullins, JT Realmuto, Kyle Schwarber, Will Smith, Mike Trout, Kyle Tucker, Trey Turner, Bobby Witt Jr., pitchers with a staff composed of Jason Adam, Daniel Bard, David Bednar, Nestor Cortez, Kendall Graveman, Merrill Kelly, Clayton Kershaw, Lance Lynn, Nick Martinez, Miles Mikolas, Adam Ottavino, Ryan Presley, Brooks Raley, Brady Singer, Adam Wainwright, and Devin Williams. I know
I missed that. I missed that. Could you do that one more time?
I'd rather not.
It sounded like Eminem's acceptance speech where he was naming all the rappers that had an influence on him. It was like 4 pages.
Yeah.
So you can look that up on our Instagram, or you can rewind this 30 seconds and listen again. But Mookie Betts, Clayton Kershaw, Will Smith are the active Dodgers. Nice. Trey Turner was a Dodger at the time when he was announced, former Dodger now. I mean, this is a pretty stacked team. Is there any names in particular that you're most excited to see represent the U.S.? And do you think they're the favorites to win this tournament?
I think that this roster is more stacked than I've ever seen it for the WBC. I don't think that we've ever had this much firepower, especially offensively. Yeah, we've got a pretty decent staff, but the offense is just a juggernaut. I mean, Mookie Betts and Mike Trout on the same team, Paul Goldschmidt on the same team. Then, Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto. Yeah. And then you got Will Smith, who's the backup catcher.
Arenado's there.
Arenado. I mean, not only the offense, but the defense too. You got gold gloves all over the damn place. The pitching is equally as solid. I give the edge to the offense, but I love that Clayton Kershaw has a potential matchup with Julio Urias against Team Mexico in Pool C, which I'm sure we'll get to.
I think Kershaw's the ace of this staff too.
Has to be. Yeah. I'm looking at the starting staff and I'm not seeing anybody that I would put above him.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's great that Trout and Kershaw in particular are going to be on this, on this roster, because these are two of the more popular players, not just in Southern California, but also throughout the league. And, at one point in time, we left the name off. Bryce Harper, because he's undergoing Tommy John, had to drop out, obviously, from Team USA commitments. You imagine that outfield, Mookie in right, Trout in center, and Bryce in left, or I don't know how that would have worked, but that would have been great. And by the way, I was looking at the depth chart, and I only saw Jeff McNeil at second base. But then again, you do have a backup second baseman. You got Mookie Betts who could play for Jeff McNeil in case he gets hurt or something. I think you guys are right. It's a loaded roster. The pitching, it's a little beyond Kershaw. He raises a few question marks.
Stacked bullpen though.
Yes, a very stacked bullpen. So
David Bednar.
Yeah,
Devin Williams.
Devin
Who's
Williams.
closing for this team?
Devin Williams.
I gotta
have to
imagine. Yeah, and it wouldn't shock me. I don't think this is gonna happen. It wouldn't shock me if Bednar is one of those 2 inning kind of guys, like 7th and 8th, and then create that bridge to Williams in the 9th. But you got contact hitters, you got speed, you got power, you got guys
ton of closers.
Yeah, and I think they did that on purpose. So as long as their starting pitchers can give them 3, 4, 5 innings, they could shorten up the game and turn it over to those arms in the bullpen. So yeah, there's not many flaws. And by the way, Mookie and Trey can be 1-2 again at the top of this order, bringing it back to the 2022 Dodger season. So that'll be fun to see.
Yeah, I think you are right. I think those would be the 1-2 hitters.
With Trout as the 3 spot, Kev, you think?
I think Trout would be 3rd and Goldschmidt would be cleanup. Yeah, if I had to guess.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of how else you would order those. Those got to be your top 4. Like I can't imagine anyone else being in the top 4. Like that has to be the 4. Maybe Pete Alonso's batting 5th because of his power upside, and then Rio Muto right behind him. But the manager Mark DeRosa's got a lot of options. I mean, this is beyond an all-star team in my opinion. I feel like this actual team is better than what we've been seeing rolled out in some all-star games recently.
This is what the USA NBA basketball team sends to the Olympics every year. Yeah. This kind of roster,
yes, sir.
With this kind of firepower. So this is really exciting this year that all of these stars, that the main stars from America are joining this team, which is has never happened before.
Yep.
I got redeemed team vibes from what you just said, Jake. I'm shaking over here.
I was about to say that the USA is the defending champion, though. They won the last tournament, which took place in 2017. The previous winner before them was the Dominican Republic, and then the inaugural champion, and then they repeated, was Japan. Does anyone remember who won the MVP for Japan twice?
Is it Ohtani?
Well, it's not Ohtani. I don't think he was even pro then.
Was he a pitcher?
I was going to say Daisuke Matsuzaka.
That's the winner.
Yep.
The first tournament took place in 2007. Matsuzaka was the MVP, and then he signed he might have already signed, but then he became his professional debut with the Red Sox later that season, and they won the World Series.
Odd career for him.
Definitely.
Didn't he go to the bullpen at some point?
He did.
Yes. He flamed out.
He won a World Series his first year in Boston in 2007. I want to say that might have those first 2 seasons were probably his best, and they weren't even that good. He got bailed out by a lot of big offensive performances by the Red Sox.
Yep.
Let me ask you guys a question. I don't know if you had this question, Kev, but it just came to me. Mark DeRosa, this is the first time he's managing this team?
Yeah.
How do we feel about him? Obviously, big personality on MLB Network, really funny guy, and pretty decent analyst. But what do we think of him as the manager? He did play for Team USA, I think, a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of like his managerial abilities, I have no idea. I kind of just remember him being a journeyman. He was a pretty solid utility player, playing on a number of teams like the Cubs and the Rangers and Atlanta. Yeah. I don't think this is going to be a hard job, to be honest, because all these guys are stars and professionals. And so I think this is more of an exhibition where pretty much anyone could lead this team. And I think what we're going to have to be more concerned about, which is very parallel to what we see with Dave Roberts, is just bullpen management. Can he get a feel for the game? Does he know when to plug guys into the right spot? Can he read the moment? If someone looks like they're going to be struggling after 2 batters, does he have the willpower to get someone warming up right away and make the correct substitution? Because I think offensively, it's pretty straightforward who you're starting, but this is going to come down to those pitching decisions.
And am I wrong in thinking that this is the only roster in the WBC that has all major league talent?
That's a good question. I want to say the last one back in, you said it was 2017, Kev. I want to say it was more recent than that. I want to say that one was mostly, I mean, there might have been 1 or 2 minor leaguers who hadn't been called up yet.
No, I'm saying this year. Team USA compared to the other rosters.
I'm just trying to think at the last roster. It was, if it wasn't all major league talent, it was like
Right.
23 out of the 25 guys were all major league talents and the other ones were minor leaguers. So you might be right. This might be the one where everybody has major league experience, not to mention a lot of these guys have been in the league a minute. Like, you don't have any rookies on this team, not many anyway.
I think you're right. This is probably the only roster with all major leaguers, but I think the biggest competition and the closest in this category is probably the Dominican Republic. Not going to name all their players off the top of my head, but I know they've got Juan Soto, Manny Machado, Julio Rodriguez.
They're going to be the if the Team USA makes it out of the pool, then.
And I believe they got the Cy Young winner Alcantara on their roster pitching game, so they're going to be tough.
No doubt. Every time you look at this tournament, there's always the teams like Japan and Dominican Republic that you have to look at, in addition to Team USA. Venezuela, don't overlook them. I believe Cuba, they're going to have a really good team as well. So a lot of good teams. Going back to your question about DeRosa, yes, I think he's got the personality. I think he's going to be able to get these guys through the day-to-day. He's got a pretty interesting coaching staff. I wanted to throw the name Mike Scioscia out there because Scioscia, I thought, did a great job during the last Summer Olympics with Team USA with mostly an amateur squad. So I'm wondering if that would have been a good look. It's always good to have somebody who's, got experience in the game, but not in the game right now, kind of like Coach K with Team USA. I always think that's a good look for a national team. But hey, I'm pulling for Mark. And if nothing else, he's going to keep those guys engaged game in and game out. Yeah.
It is interesting why someone like Scioscia wasn't involved. Maybe he just has too many commitments. I'm looking it up right now. The manager of the 2017 winner was Jim Leland. So that was a pretty established manager, going from a guy that's been to World Series to Mark DeRosa.
I think I just pulled up the Dominican Republic roster. I think we should give them some flowers right now because this roster is stacked. I mean, Kevin mentioned a bunch of names already, but Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Rafael Devers, Ketel Marte, Willie Adames, Wander Franco, Nelson Cruz, Eloy Jimenez, Teoscar Hernandez. He already mentioned Julio Rodriguez and Juan Soto. Behind the plate, you got Gary Sanchez. Woo! And then the pitching is pretty decent too. You got Christian Javier on there. Let's see.
Gregory just signed a 5-year,
Gregory Soto as your closer,
deal.
Probably. Gregory Soto as your closer. I mean, I would still like looking at both of these rosters between the Dominican Republic and Team USA. I have to give the edge to Team USA. I just think that they have ultimately overall better pitching, and I think the lineups can be a wash. But I would give the advantage to Team USA on paper.
Man, Kershaw potentially against that lineup would be so electric. Like, sign me up if that's our finals. I don't remember if it's a best of 3 final, right? Or is it a one and done? I'll have to look up the rules because I don't remember off the top of my head.
It's once you make it out of the pool, it's one and done to the finals. But I'm not sure if the final is a series or just a one.
Yeah.
When does it start again, guys? Does it start at the end of February or early March?
It starts like March 8th.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's
which we'll get to right now. In the pool that the US is in, they have Great Britain, Mexico, and Canada. Over on Canada, they got our first baseman, Dodgers, number 5, Freddie Freeman. Gotta imagine he's their best player.
Don't they have Colombia too?
Colombia?
Is Colombia in there?
Are they? I thought it was 4 teams, but correct me if I'm wrong. Look that up. Great Britain, 1 Dodger as well, Trace Thompson. He'll be one of their starting outfielders, of course. No one else really noteworthy on that team. And then Mexico, who I think is our biggest competition in the pool. Dodgers co-ace Julio Urias, their best player. And then Dodgers catcher Austin Barnes repping, and he'll be calling behind the plate. So I think Mexico has a pretty good team. They've got Astros, decent starter Jose Urique, or however you say it. And then other than that,
Urquidy,
yeah. Then other than that, it's just a bunch of guys. So I think the U.S. should be able to mop the floor with this division. I'm going to be going to the Mexico and Great Britain game, so I'll be rooting on Team USA.
I'll be going to a couple games myself. Nice. I'm looking up Pool C, tournament. And yes, so we've got USA, Canada, Mexico, and Colombia, and Great Britain.
Okay, so 5. Thank you. I don't know who's on Columbia, but no Dodgers. Other Dodgers, minor leaguer Adam Kolarek is on Team Israel. One of the Dodgers' top prospects, Jose Ramos, is on Team Panama. And then Miguel Rojas, if he's healthy, will be playing for Team Venezuela. And those are all your notable Dodgers competing in this pool. I don't know if David Peralta was signed up, but because he just came to the Dodgers, but wouldn't surprise me if he was there.
Real quick, that's kind of baller that Austin Barnes is playing for Team Mexico. I think that's pretty awesome, actually. Hey, ¿cómo estás usted, Austin? Bring the heat, dog. Let's do it.
Oh my God, I love it when you speak Spanish.
All right, so I think that's a good general preview right now on the World Baseball Classic. We'll continue to cover it more as it starts to pick up steam, start talking about the matchups and the rules and all that. But that's just a little overview of what to expect over the coming month. USA will be playing at Chase Field in their pool. So if you're trying to get the games, got to drive down to Phoenix, see some spring training during the day, and then go watch the games at night. Seems like a pretty good combo to me.
I don't like the fact Clayton Kershaw's pitching at his house of horrors, also known as Chase Field. So just be careful with usage over there. Doesn't exactly have the greatest record over there over the last 10, 12 years. Right, Jake?
Yeah, he doesn't do well there. But, it's Kershaw, and he has a lot of pride in this. And I feel like when you desperately need him, he's going to come through.
No doubt.
Better than Coors, at least. Better than Coors.
Oh, thank God they don't have it at Coors.
All right, let's move into a new topic. So FanFest happened a week ago, last Saturday at Dodger Stadium. Pretty exciting. That was my first time attending a FanFest. Ran into Jake Reiner. He got me on the news. So if you watch Sports Central, I made a little cameo. And Jake did a great piece on what went down at FanFest. So you can find that on his profile. Probably the biggest announcement, though, was that the Dodgers, led by Stan Kasten, announced they are retiring Fernando Valenzuela's number 34 finally. They're going to do a ceremony in August. So I know this is something that Dodgers fans have been clamoring for decades. No one has worn the jersey since Fernando, but it's official. They got rid of that rule. Number 34 will be retired. So I don't have any other thoughts on that because we all know how great Fernando was, but it's just exciting for a guy that's in the Dodgers broadcast booth and one of the biggest legends ever finally getting the recognition.
Yeah. I think it's so much more than just retiring the number. It's another chance to celebrate what he meant to the Dodgers organization, what he meant to the Mexican people of Los Angeles. I mean, he was an absolute icon, and no better way than to retire his number. And I know they had the precedent of not, retiring numbers of guys that weren't in the Hall of Fame, with the exception, I believe, of Jim Gilliam, because it was a special circumstance. And so this is another special circumstance. I love it when teams kind of break from tradition to do something that should have been done a long time ago. And it's a really cool thing. And I'm glad that they're finally doing it.
Oh, I agree. Fernando Mania was a phenomenon, and this man was a symbol not just for the LA community, not just for the Dodger organization, but really for baseball. And he has been a great ambassador to the game. And still, it's just so many iconic moments, and not even just the no-hitter of 1990 with Vince Scully's iconic call, "If you got a sombrero, throw it to the sky." But it was the way he pitched. It was his demeanor. It was the fact that many Dodger fans from the Latino community had really somebody to identify with. And still to this day, that 81 team is special because of Fernando. People think of 88, they think of Oral. 81 was Fernando, and could not be a more deserving player. He has stayed connected to the game of baseball, stayed connected to the LA community, stayed connected to the Dodger organization. I agree with you, Jake. This is a time and place to break tradition, and I'm glad Stan and the other owners of the Guggenheim Group have acknowledged that, and they're going to give him his flowers and retire that number 34. Well deserved.
And the next thing this team needs to do is lock up Julio Urias, because he is the guy that you want there for the rest of his career, what he means to this fan base.
Ditto.
We'll cross that bridge in a year because he ain't coming cheap.
And nor should he, and they should pay him.
Agreed. Yeah.
Any other things that happened at FanFest? one of my favorite interviews was when they talked to Freddie Freeman. This guy is just a true Iron Man, like the complete opposite of load management. He says he hates taking games off, and he really explained why, because he said he knows how hard fans work to rack up the dollars so that they can afford to go to Dodger Stadium or wherever they're at and watch him play. And so I think a guy like that's just speaks true cadence of his personality. And I think that now he's more comfortable in Los Angeles. He's the first to admit, like, there were moments where he got emotional, missed Atlanta and all that, and it kind of got to him. But I think us as fans made him really comfortable by chanting his name loud. And I think this second season for Freddie Freeman, he's going to emerge as the Dodgers' primary clubhouse leader. He demonstrated all kinds of situations in Atlanta where he led that team, especially to that 2021 World Series. And now that I think he's more adapted to Los Angeles, it has more of a chemistry and familiarity with our organization. He's going to be the Dodgers leader, probably followed by Mookie Betts, who's more of a lead by example guy. But I think a vocal presence, Freeman is going to be the clubhouse leader.
Here's the thing about Freddie Freeman that I've loved this offseason is that it really feels like he thinks of himself as a Dodger. This is the first time I'm really feeling that from him. He really feels a part of this organization. He's using the terms we and us and all of that. And that stuff is important because, as we saw last year, it was a very emotional year for him. And he kind of, his time in Atlanta kind of ended abruptly and a little kind of controversial in a way. So he was kind of emotionally all over the map and didn't really feel like he was a part of the Dodgers organization. Kind of felt like he had, one foot still in Atlanta. But this offseason has really felt like he has taken ownership of that. And I agree with Kevin. I think he's going to be the clubhouse leader. He's got that attitude that we need to lead this clubhouse. And think about it this way, with all the emotional stuff going on last year, he still had an incredible offensive season. I mean, that to me is like, that's all you need to know about the guy. Doesn't matter what's going on off the field or around him. He can still hit the damn ball. And so that was truly impressive. But now in his second year, I'm super excited to see what he does.
It sometimes takes a year to really feel comfortable in a place, even if you are leaving a situation where you just won a World Series and you're coming into another team that has World Series aspirations. It takes time to ingratiate yourself into the city, into the culture. I mean, not to mention, and Jake, you touched on it, he thought he was going to be a Brave forever. So to basically get your legs taken out from you, I mean, metaphorically, but also kind of literally, and kind of feel stunned and be like, okay, well, I'm going to go to the Dodgers. But that shock really did not wear off right away. You know what I'm saying? So it's very difficult, even though he's got Southern California ties and, grew up in OC and all of that stuff. That's still a difficult process. So I think he is going to be more of a clubhouse leader, along with other guys. I think Chris Taylor, Max Muncy, guys who've now been Dodgers for 6-7 years. I think their voices are going to go, a long way. Clayton Kershaw, of course, as far as the pitching is concerned. But yeah, I really am. I like the fact that he has that old school mentality in this era now of load management, guys taking days off, guys worried more about their personal brands than winning and staying healthy. He is one of the last, and you don't normally see this in baseball, but he's one of the last guys that actually values playing 162. We give baseball players a bit of a pass because the season is such a grind. You're playing every day. You're traveling a lot. You're playing these 3-game sets. So I love the fact that he said what he said, because to say that for an 82-game season in the NBA is one thing. To say that for 162 in baseball, to take that kind of pride, that's next level right there. So shout out to Freddie, and I hope he has a terrific season once again for the Dodgers.
All right. We're running a little short on time. I don't know if we have time to talk about the NBA trade deadline, so I'll edit that part out because I know you're probably short for time, Chris. But any final thoughts? Anything else you want to cover real quick?
I was wondering about the guys that are being invited on minor league deals. I noticed that Dodgers, invited Adam Kolarek, but there's still some names out there that are so intriguing, and maybe they might be broken, but I'm wondering why they haven't taken a look at guys like Zach Britton, why they haven't taken a look at guys like Michael Fulmer, why they haven't taken a look at guys like Alex Reyes. I was talking to you about that, Kev, via Twitter, and it's just like, I understand, you have a lot of arms in that bullpen, but why not take a flyer on some of these guys, especially when you don't have an established closer right now?
You know who they did take a flyer on today? Ruby De La Rosa.
Oh, my
He is
gosh.
back. The guy they traded in 2012 in that Aegon package. I didn't even know he was still pitching. Ruby De La Rosa back on a minor league invite.
Briar Lab, here we go.
I agree with your point, Chris. Especially someone like Zach Britton. How is he still a free agent? Like, I know he's at the end of his career, but you got to be able to sign him for at least $4 million, I would guess, unless he's purposely holding out. I think like Peralta is an example on the offensive end where he kind of just fell into our lap because that deal is like peanuts. So I'm happy with that. But yeah, one more reliever, whether it was Ken Giles, Britton, Alex Reyes. Why are these guys still out there?
Yeah. Ken Giles is another one. I know he's doing a workout right now. He's hosting a, what do you call it? So it's almost like an audition at this point. Like you're about to read lines for a movie, right, Jake?
Yep.
Oh man. Yeah, no. So I just think these guys are worth, if they've had success at one point in time. Yes, they've had injuries. Yes, they've had some inconsistencies. These are the types of guys that Dodgers would love to grab and say, hey, work with us for a year. If it works out for you, great. It's almost like John Calipari in Kentucky. If it works out, great. You can go into the NBA and make $4 million next year. Come here to the Dodgers. We'll help you get back on track. You help us win games. And next winter, you could get a multi-year deal elsewhere. And if you don't believe us, ask Andrew Heaney, ask Tyler Anderson, ask Brandon Morrow back in the day, ask Daniel Hudson. Our record speaks for itself, fellas. Chris Martin, too.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that's where we're going to close out the show. Great point you just brought out, Chris. Somehow I have this little itch that the Dodgers are going to make one more move before the season starts. They did this to us a year ago when they traded A.J. Pollock for Craig Kimbrell midway through spring training. Not going to say it'll be that type of deal, but I just feel like something's going to happen. But on that note, Jake Reiner, hope you have a great weekend ahead. Chris Camel, thank you for joining. You can follow us all below. I will post the descriptions and our handles I'll post our handles in description below. Oh man, I'm winded. The Incline Dodgers signing out. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.